You will be praying for us this morning. My father's voice will wake me up every morning at 3 a.m. shouting. I mean, most children wake up at 8 a.m. to the smell of breakfast or the sound of cartoons, while my brother and I woke up to the weight of sharp piercing eyes and voice. I was just a little girl. I was 5 years. My name is Caro. Let's dive into my story. Caro was not just a name. It was a brand. A caged brand. I mean, stepping outside the gate felt like a breath of fresh air. Since everywhere we go there was always a shadow of a watchman and a bell ringer following us, leave alone playing with other kids. To the neighborhood, I was not just the girl next door. To the congregation, I was not just a child. I was a pastor's kid. A title whispered with a mixture of high expectation and hidden judgment. A title that brought entitlement. Imagine greeting and smiling at each and every person you know or you have ever seen, be it in church, in the community, in school, and at the house, simply because your father is a pastor. From the moment I could talk, I was a walking sermon, a living testimony of my father's household management. At 5, I knew how to recite words like sanctification, tabernacle, and manifestation into a prayer that sounded like it came from an old soul. I didn't have the luxury of being just the other child. I was a role model, a mirror to be looked at and admired. This is how the world of ministry is. This is how my world was. I was a mirror and my father was the reflection. His success as a pastor was not measured by his sermons, but by the fruit of his household. If Caro's skirt was too short, her father was seen as a man who could not lead his home. And if he could not lead his home, the congregation questioned his right to lead a church. My childhood was not measured in birthdays, but in the things I was not allowed to see. I remember the silence in the living room. My brother and I seated on the rug, mesmerized by the colorful soap opera, The Storm Over Paradise, the forbidden drama that was full of passion. You all remember, right? But our ears were always on the driveway. The moment my father's car pulled in, the click of the TV dial was our heartbeat. The screen will go black, and we will scramble for our Bibles or school books. If we caught a glimpse of a romance or even a worldly cartoon, the lecture lasted longer than the show. I learned early that my eyes were not mine to use. They were windows that had to be kept shut against the world. When sent to the shop or market, a silent warning of "you should be in the house by 5 p.m. always remember that" would follow. And true to the word, I was always time conscious, up until now. As I grew, my body became a public project. While the girls at school started wearing colorful leggings and t-shirts with their favorite brands, I would wear my normal pull-me-up clothes. My preferences were treated like a taboo. I remember begging for a pair of sneakers. Just simple white sneakers. But I was given heavy black boots because they were sober. Rents were common. I remember the era of colors and oversized jeans. I would see girls at school glowing, catching up with the trend, full of energy and pop. But to me, this was just one of my many dreams. Things I could see from afar but cannot reach. I would go home and look at my wardrobe. A depressing collection of safe browns, muted navies, and thick floral fabrics that felt like a collection of pine trees. When skinny jeans became the global uniform of youth, I was still hooked in my pleated skirts that reached my ankles, heavy enough to withstand a storm. It was not just about the clothes, it was about the language of belonging. Fashion is how teenagers say, I am part of this generation. By being denied the trends, I was being denied my peers. I was a 1950s housewife trapped in a 2010s classroom. The world's design were focused on stiletto, expression, and edge, while my father's designs for me were focused on concealment. When crop top became a symbol of freedom, my mother added camisoles under already high-necked blouses. For me, Sunday was a fashion trial. My mother would tug at my skirts to ensure that they hit the floor. You are the billboard for this ministry, Caro, she would whisper, pinning a brooch over my collarbone. I always felt like a mannequin in a shop window, stiff, silent, and dressed by someone else. You know, my favorite color was yellow, but I wore gray and brown to avoid drawing the eye of the flesh. Puberty did not bring me womanhood. It brought me a higher security clearance. When I turned 15, the cage did not just have bars. It had guards. Boyfriends were talked about like predators in the night. Live alone, having friends or girlfriends. To even mention a boy's name was to invite a deliverance session. I remember sitting in a school, watching my friends exchange notes and giggles about crushes. I felt like I was watching a movie in a language I was not allowed to speak. I pushed every natural feeling deep into my gut until it turned into a constant, dull ache of guilt. Sex was not a biological reality. It was a dark, terrifying theft of my father's reputation. I was told that if I ever stumbled, I will not just be sinning against God, I will be tearing down the church walls. And so the pressure to stay pure was so heavy, I was afraid to even sit too close to a male cousin. Clubs and alcohol were the ultimate symbols of the fire. On Friday nights, I would lie in bed, listening to the muffled or Angler music from a distant party. You know how Janabi does his thing. how far I can take you with the heat, Heraremo. I used to feel like the only person left on a deserted island. I was not allowed to dance because the body should not move for the world. I became a ghost in my own youth. In school, I was a ghost. I would watch my friends whisper about their crushes or plan secret outings to the local clubs. I would sit there, clutching my Bible study notes, feeling 1,000 years old. To my classmates, I was a holy moly killjoy. They stopped inviting me because they knew Pastor would not allow it. The pressure was suffocating. I was told that my body was not mine. It was a temple that belonged to the church reputation. If a boy so much as looked at me, I felt a crushing sense of guilt, as if I had already sinned. Then came the digital age, and the cage went global. I got a phone for emergencies, but it was a tracking device for my soul. I remember the first time I liked a photo of a popular singer. That evening, a deaconess called my mother. Caro is wandering on the internet, she warned. Suddenly, my Instagram feed was monitored like a crime scene. I could not post a photo of my face without someone commenting, "Sister Caro, where is your head covering? Is that a trace of lipstick I see? Remember Jezebel?" I began to live in the shadows of the internet, using fake accounts just to feel like a normal 19-year-old. I was exhausted from the double life. One version of me for the pulpit and a dying version of me for myself. Then I was 21, back home from college for the holidays. My father had scheduled me to lead the youth purity seminar. On that particular day, I was standing on the altar, leading a song I had sung 1,000 times. I looked out at the faces, the same faces that reported me for not kneeling low enough. The same faces that judged my skirts. I looked at my father, standing in his expensive suit, nodding at me as if I were a well-trained dog. I stopped mid-note. The instruments continued for a second, then trailed off into a deafening silence. "I can't breathe," I whispered into the microphone. I walked off the stage. I did not run, I just walked. I walked past the ushers, past my mother's gasping face, and out into the cool night air. In that moment, as the heavy oak doors of the church swung shut behind me, I was not just walking out of a building. I was walking out of a skin I had outgrown years ago. For 21 years, my primary internal compass was, will this make my father look good? But at that time, as I walked past the gasping congregation, for the first time I felt that compass shatter. There was a mourning for the girl I was supposed to be, the one who never caused a sin, the one who always had the right scripture ready. I felt the heavy invisible crown of the pastor's daughter fall off and hit the floor. It was the relief of a prisoner finally dropping a weight they had been forced to carry uphill. After years of loud amens and thunderous sermons, The quiet night felt like a sanctuary. I felt the wind on my neck, a neck usually covered by high collars, and it felt like a caress from the universe telling me I was finally real. I realized that the cage only works if you agree to stay inside. For the first time in my life, I was not being moved by a schedule or a duty. Every step, left, right, left, was a choice. The feeling was a dizzying mix of the realization that I had no one to go, but I was finally the one driving, and a cold, hard no that had hardened in my chest like a stone. Even as I reach the edge of the church parking lot now, I feel the eyes on my back. I feel the judgment of the ants and the disappointment of the holy ones clinging to my clothes like smoke. But with every foot of distance I put between myself and the pulpit, those ghosts grew smaller. I realized they only have power as long as I stay on their stage. By walking away, I have effectively ended their show. I know someday I will find my way back, but not now. For now, I need to find myself first.